welcome to be seated. Shabbat Shalom. Here at Congregation Beth Torah, our families with children have fully embraced the Jewish value of Bal Tashchit, do not destroy. With our gemach, with the children's clothing exchange located in the upstairs wing of the Learning Center, years of clothing has been passed from child to child so that older children often recognize their favorite t-shirt on a toddler. So far, I have never had to go on a shopping spree when either of my kids have reached a new size, and I've heard the same from other parents. In fact, our CBT families are so good at this value of Bal Tashchit that our gemach is completely full, no more donations allowed. So, parents and grandparents, if you need new clothes for your kids, please raid our gemach. Now, anyone can still donate their used clothing or household items in the blue bin outside. That benefits both Learning Center and Jewish Family Services. Practicing Bal Tashchit in the ways we do at CBT is convenient. Exchanging clothing saves money and builds relationships. Donating clothing and household items saves space. And bonus, that blue bin raises funds and provides resources for organizations and for people in need. Beyond convenience and just seeming like the right thing to do, Bal Tashchit is a mitzvah commanded by God, and it's introduced in today's Torah portion. In Parashat Shoftim, Moshe instructs the Israelites, when in your war against a city you have to besiege it a long time in order to capture it, lo tashchit, do not destroy its trees, wielding an axe against them. You may eat of them, but you may not cut them down. Are trees of the field human to withdraw before you into the besieged city? Only trees that you know do not yield food may be destroyed. You may cut them down for destructing siege works against the city that is waging war on you until it has been reduced. Even in wartime, when tensions are high and attention is strained, Moshe cautions, be careful not to destroy the trees that will still have use for years to come. You may use them, but you may not destroy their value. The only case in which you may destroy the besieged trees is when they will not provide ongoing fruit. Remember that trees are God's creations. They deserve gratitude and respect, even if they do not have the ability to run away or speak up for themselves. Also remember that even when those trees will not provide ongoing fruit, you must use what you have cut down for the sake of building. Both for the sake of the people and generations to come and for the sake of the trees themselves, we are commanded to either preserve or mindfully utilize any trees that stand in our way, even in the midst of war. In later rabbinic text, these trees are expanded into objects and nature in general. As Rambam teaches, anyone who breaks, destroys, or ruins a man-made or natural object has violated the mitzvah of Bal Tashchit, do not destroy. Our Judaism is decidedly not an ascetic tradition. We embrace Oneg Shabbat, the joy of Shabbat, through lavish food. We practice Hidur Mitzvah, beautifying our mitzvot, through decorative candlesticks, talitot, and sanctuary space. We fully acknowledge the ease that stuff and things can offer us in our lives. We even say blessings for material success. But with such acknowledgement must come gratitude, both in saying thank you to the God who created the earth these things come from, and in taking care of those things and God's earth the best we can. With the notion of Bal Tashchit, we use what we have to its fullest extent to make sure that our created world can keep sustaining those who live in it for endless generations to come. As we spoke about last week, technology allows us to be constantly bombarded by devastating news. Of course, news about the future of our planet is no exception. Scientists and journalists might argue that our planet is at a point at which even tiny steps that we take, or the tiny steps we take, can't really make much of a difference at changing the course of our future. And yet, those small steps can at least keep us aware of the gifts that we've been given in this time and in this world. When we pay attention to what we use and how we use it, we can at least embrace the chance that we are preserving this world as much as we can for generations to come. Now, some of us have the capacity and the knowledge and the skill set to show our care for God's creation through a zero-waste lifestyle or through days filled with environmental activism. However, those of us who are not there yet at least have the obligation to start out small, to go one step further in preventing the destruction of our world. To start practicing Bal Tashchit, we can begin at home with what we use, with how we use it. I'm going to use a microphone. We can take care of our things, and we can ask our children to do the same. We can buy used and donate, give away, or sell when we are finished. When we buy food, we can choose to only buy what we know we'll eat, and we can bring our own bags to the store to prevent the creation of more waste with yet another pile of plastic bags. And when we do our meal prep for the week, we focus on what we can make with what is about to go bad before we plan to buy more. I know also that there are crafty members of this congregation who are wonderful at upcycling, at taking things that are broken or beyond their best use and turning them into something different. In her study of the Parsha, Nechama Leibovitz explains the danger of thinking of our objects and our earth as disposable. She writes, "We are not precluded from making use of God's creations. Indeed, we are bidden in the book of Genesis, or Breshit, to subdue it, redo, exploit to the full the natural resources God has placed at our disposal, conquering the desert and uprooting vegetation where it causes damage. But it is willful destruction of the gifts of nature that has been bestowed upon us that we are warned against. It does not matter whether the object of our destructive efforts belongs to us. No person has an exclusive right to even their own property. The earth is God's and the fullness thereof, the psalmist states. Everything is granted to us in trust. At the end of the day, nothing we own is truly ours. Our possessions and the natural world around us belong to God. They should not just be used and forgotten, but used to their absolute fullest potential. When we practice Bal Tashchit, and when we limit the destruction of our material objects and our natural world, we show the next generation how they can show their gratitude as they become stewards of God's creation. Now, I'm aware that for some of our next generation, for many of our next generation, they may not need that reminder. So I want to share a story of Thursday that happened on Thursday as I was thinking, what will we talk about this Shabbat? So on Thursday, the assortment of toddlers who spend their afternoons at our home climbed in and out of whatever bags and boxes they could find. They used them as cars and step stools and periscopes. If I were to take our toddlers on a walk outside, it would take us an hour to go one block, as every rock and flower and mailbox would transform into some sort of treasure. There's nothing like a little kid to remind us about the value of reusing and repurposing the natural and man-made things that we keep around us. So for those of us who keep these toddlers around to remind us, and for those of us for whom that's not quite the case, let's say a prayer so that they can keep demonstrating to us and inspiring us in that value of Bal Tashchit, of not destroying this world around us. And let's turn together to page 177 in our Siddur, and we'll say a prayer together at the top of the page. Prayer for the renewal of creation. Master of the universe, in whose hand is the breath of all life and the soul of every person, grant us the gift of Shabbat, a day of rest from all our labors. With all of our senses may we perceive the glory of your works. Fill us with your goodness that we may attest to your great deeds. Strengthen us to become your faithful partners, preserving the world for the sake of future generations. Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, may it be your will to renew your blessing of the world in our day, as you have done from the beginning of time. Shabbat shalom.